Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Winter Wonder cue we are writing. What we're going to do is mix and master this into stems, which I have set up on my template. As you can see here, I've got 10 ready to go and 10 reverbs we can play with as well. If you want to make a template like this, I've done a video on exactly that over there, and like and subscribe, always appreciated. The first thing I'm going to do before I get to any of that is reorder these into groups that I think I will need for the different stems, so it's easy to work with. Okay, see when I've done that? Okay, now everything's looking a little bit more organised. I'm going to open up the template and I need to rename these to correspond with the instrument groups. So I'm going to keep the Celeste and the Glock on their own channels. The tremolo strings I'm going to do as high strings. I'm going to group the cello, bass and Albion 1 strings as low strings, and I've also got this synth pad that I want on its own track as well. We're going to group percussion together at the bottom. So I need to just go through and relabel these. See you in a sec. There we go. We've got the stems and the reverbs labelled up nicely. Next, I'm going to route these to the correct locations. So the Celeste is not going to go to the stereo out, it's going to go to the Celeste stem, and I also need to have a send which goes to the Celeste reverb, so I can control that in a second. I'm just going to do that moving along and from top to bottom. See you in a bit. There we go. If I've done everything correctly and press play, I should not hear anything, because we are now routed to audio tracks and we would need input monitoring on if we wanted to hear what was coming through those particular tracks. Next up, I'm going to go through and probably this end section where everything is playing, I'm just going to loop it, and I'm going to set the EQ for any of the instruments if I want to shape it. So I'm going to just go through each of the instruments and have a listen in solo mode. That's the easiest way I find to do it. So we'll be back in a sec. Okay, after going through and putting a few EQs on to shape the sound, I've worked my way back up, and I'll just show you the last one because the next step is to add some reverb in. What I don't want is the instrument to have too much reverb on it itself. The last one I'm doing here is the Celeste. So all I'm doing is going into the instrument itself, finding out where the mix controls are. I'm taking it out of the automatic mix 1. I'm putting it into close mics only. This is going to sound a little bit different now, but that's the point of the next step. Adding this reverb by turning up the sends from each of the individual instruments. So remember, while there are 3 instruments going into this low strings bus, they each have an individual send amount that we can put into the reverb. So you've still got quite a bit of fine control over these reverbs. So I'm going to go through, add that so we get a cohesive sound that comes together, and at that point everything will be coming from the instruments into the reverbs if they need it, and also into the stems, which is collecting the reverbs as well, so it becomes that one united stem at the end. Right, see when I've added some reverb. There we go. What you sometimes find when you go through the reverb process is that you do need to adjust some of the levels, and for example, I have decided to automate the tremolo strings lower when they start off, because by picking up the reverb, you're increasing that initial volume. It sounds much better later on when everything else is in, but I just needed to drop it at the start. So it's something to listen out for when you're doing it. Right, we've got all our routing reverbs in place. We're going to pop this into record mode, press the record button, and watch the stems magically appear. See you in a sec. And there we go. Stems complete. They can come out of record mode. We're ready to put Logic Mastering Assistant on, which is the last step I'll do before setting the cycle range from the start to the end. Don't forget I recorded way after the sounds had finished, so we can definitely have a nice outro there. I'm going to start it just before the very first sound, which is those high strings, comes in. And that's it for another cue. That's been fun. Like and subscribe, always appreciated. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.